unaccountable, untaxed global bodies. These global bodies are called the WHO, which I'll talk about in a minute, and the World Economic Forum. And Leo Varadkar was actually a young global leader in the World Economic Forum. And if you look closely on some of the politicians' lapels, they have a little rainbow-colored circle. That's the Sustainable Development Goal, SDG, Agenda 2030. A few years ago, that would have been called a conspiracy theory. But now they're wearing it on their lapel. They're even putting the SDGs in your local park near the biodiversity bee garden because it's marketed as biodiversity, sustainable, earth-friendly, when that's actually, it's a wolf in sheep's clothing. So the Irish government does not serve us at the moment. The members are no longer representative of us. They've lost their democratic moorings. They're tethered to a globalist agenda, and we're being pulled, this country, by that globalist tugboat further and further out to sea. I founded the Natural Women's Council, and we lobby and campaign for the rights of children, women, families, and now our borders and health freedom. And I can absolutely tell you that every man, every woman, and every child in this country now is under attack by our corrupt political establishment. Be under no illusion, we are under attack, and I'm going to share with you how. If we don't get candidates like Jerry in, to oppose these failed policies, this country will see a societal collapse. It seems impossible to identify one government policy that is not faltering. So in the interest of time, I'm only going to talk about 4 policies. And when anyone comes to your door looking for your vote, these 4 policies are ones you should be questioning them on. So the first one is mass immigration. We have open borders. They are putting the safety and social cohesion of this country in grave danger. The government are trying to push through what's called the EU Migration Pact without any debate and without any consultation with any of you. This immigration policy jeopardizes the safety of the Irish women and children, but this fact is overlooked by those claiming to represent women's interest, including publicly funded NGOs like the National Women's Council of Ireland that get $1 million a year of your tax money, and those standing on the hard left lobbying for women's rights. But the evidence is clear, and this is why it is so assiduously ignored. So the stats, I'm going to share with you some really shocking facts. And as a mom to a girl who's almost 9, these facts terrify me. So in Sweden, foreign-born individuals represent a disproportionate percentage of rape convictions. You can go look up those stats yourself with the rapes for the foreign nationals. In Germany, foreigners are only 12% of the population. Yet they account for 67% of those implicated in gang rapes. Just on May 2nd, I think it came out in the news that there was a man here called Mohammed. He was refused asylum in several different countries before coming here. He traveled to Ireland on a fake Swedish passport, which happened to go missing when he landed. He just raped a woman in a Dublin toilet with his hand. He should not have been in this country. He should not have gotten through this country, yet 85% of those coming in seeking international protection, 85% have no passport or ID. We do not know who they are, and we do not know their criminal past. This is not racism. I am not anti-immigrant, I am an immigrant. These are facts acknowledged by governments such as Sweden, Germany, and all the other European countries who have opened their borders recklessly. We must learn from those other countries. So the first thing I'll say is only candidates who take a stand against this mass immigration should get your vote. Or our girls and our women in Ireland will be in serious danger. I don't want to hear a story about my daughter being followed into a toilet by one of these men that shouldn't have been here. The second thing that's a really hot issue is gender ideology. Women, children, and family values are under attack with gender ideology being pushed into every aspect of our society, be it the workplace, be it schools, be it libraries, everywhere we look. Just 2 months ago, seems like a lifetime ago, the government and their party faithful spent over €20 million trying to erase woman, mother, and home from our sacred constitution. And let's not forget that a couple years back I did a town hall in 2022 where at that time the 39th Amendment was the right to housing bill tabled by Richard Boyd Barrett and Paul Murphy, which wanted to delimit your rights to private property for the common good. That is communism. And the referendum exposed the government's deceptive tactics for every one of us to see, which was a good thing. Ministers were caught brazenly lying about the Attorney General's advice in an effort to get us as citizens to change the Constitution. So they lied, they hid the information to try to sway votes. It's really hard to imagine a more egregious misuse of democratic power. So what does gender ideology in our society do to put women and girls in danger? Well, there's something called the Gender Recognition Act of 2015. This paved the way for ideology being in our legislation. This act allows all of you men in this room to declare that you are a woman and gain access to women's changing rooms, loos, sports, and prisons. Currently, there are men in Ireland who are applying for and acquiring this certificate while they are on trial for sexual offences. For those of you who have girls, think of your girl at the disco or the shopping centre and having one of these men with sexual offences behind them try to change to a woman and follow your daughter into that toilet, or your wife or your sister, auntie, neighbour. Self-ID means an end to single-sex provision for women and girls in Ireland. That needs to be completely abolished. Gender ideology is harming children. Also, it's being pushed in every single strand of the school curriculum under the guise of diversity, equity, inclusion, anti-bullying, and there is a word for kindness in Ireland. What's it begins with a C? Canultas? Who's Irish here? Anyone speak Irish? Is it canultas or kindness? The Irish word for kindness. I can never say it right. But anyway, there's a new program in school rolled out under this lovely Irish name with all the rainbows, anti-bullying and kindness. But what this is academia being captured by woke political activists and NGOs like Tenny and Belong To. Luckily, in April, the final Cass report was published last month. Has anyone heard of Dr. Hilary Cass? She was a pediatrician consultant with the NHS. And she did an interim report a couple of years ago. I was at a conference in Killarney, and I met the two whistleblowers, Sue and Marcus, who actually were the ones to close the Tavistock Gender Affirming Clinic down for malpractice, mind you. This final Cass report, you can Google it, came out last month. It exposed the dangers of this radical ideology. And finally, after 2 years of our groups campaigning, writing letters, standing on the road, making thousands and thousands, I think 250,000 leaflets last year, finally, after 2 years of being on the street campaigning, the Cass report has woken up the country to say, actually, it's not safe to be telling girls they can change to be a boy. Oh, you don't think so, really? Okay. Common sense could have told you that, but children in Ireland, 200 were referred to Tavistock. They have been taking, there's children in Ireland who were referred, and they're taking irreversible puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and getting surgeries to remove healthy breasts and genitalia. Young Irish children. And now this report came out, and it is damning. And I have met some of these children in Ireland who have been through this. It is heartbreaking, and this will be the greatest scandal this country's ever seen. So gender ideology is being pushed now into primary schools. I have a 5-year-old boy and I have an 8-year-old girl. And it's being pushed into primary schools. Is anyone here a parent of a primary school child? Were you invited to the consultation that opened in March? No, neither was I. And I approached Norma Foley face to face because I saw her in Boswell's after one of our rallies last July. And I said to Norma, parents that would come to us are very concerned, Norma, that you did not invite us to the consultation for junior cycle. And she said, yes, you were invited. It's on the ncca.ie website. Well, that's great, but two busy working parents, how are they going to know to be digging through a website? You did not invite us. That is not a consultation. You sidelined parents. And she ran up the stairs very quickly. So we have been campaigning for the last 2 years to get this out of the school curriculum. They pushed it into junior cycle. They pushed it into senior cycle is coming for next September. They've not even published the results yet, but my understanding is the books are already getting printed. And the primary school consultation opened up in March and it closes in June. I've had 2 groups of teachers, retired teachers, about 10 of them, and current teachers, about 10 of them, working literally round the clock until sometimes midnight, 2 in the morning, calls to review what is coming into the primary schools. And we're going to publish our submission hopefully in the next couple of days so parents can make sense of it. They're not just rebuilding the sex ed for your children, they are rebuilding every strand of the primary school curriculum to push this ideology in every single bit. So in the current school books, there's a section that has Sam Smith on there. He's a, I don't know, non-binary or transgender. The children are tasked with researching their favorite transgender and non-binary person and presenting it to the rest of the class to put them on a pedestal. People like Bambi Thug, who practices Satanism. That's a great role model for my daughter. Children are also being sexualized by those, such as the WHO, who think that age 4 should be learning about masturbation and age 9 should be learning about their first sexual experience. So look up, this is a document for anyone with a notebook, the WHO Standards of Sexuality. Look that up for yourself. It shows by age what they want to teach your children. It's frightening. So where can you find all this information? We finally, after a couple of years, got our website up and running, naturalwomenscouncil.ie, to see our 2 latest projects. They're really easy to follow. One is called Story Time for the Irish Mammy. And we had a group of Irish mommies around Ireland come to a hotel room like this for a day. We spent a whole day filming with Ryland Media to do 2 to 3 minute clips. It's a 10-part series, 2 to 3 minute clips reading from the children's school textbooks and the library books. Do not watch this when your children are in the room. It is shocking. It looks like a parody. It's meant to be like a parody, but these are actual books. So you can go to naturalwomenscouncil.ie, you can look at Storytime for the Irish Mammy. There's also Queering of the Irish Education, which we're going to change the name to Corruption of the Irish Education. It shows that where this all came from, starting from the top up, like John Money and some other people who believe children are sexual, from pedophiles, and how it drills down and got into Irish schools. We peeled back the layer of that onion. It's terrifying. So the second thing I'll say is, only candidates who take a stand against the radical gender ideology and the sexualization and the indoctrination of children should get your vote. So when they knock on the door, ask them about the immigration and ask them about the sexualization and gender ideology being pushed on kids. The third thing is really short and sweet, because most of you probably know about the hate speech bill. So most of you know that Justice Minister McEntee is, without a mandate, attempting to introduce legislation that will patently undermine the fundamental right to our speech in Ireland. The Criminal Justice Bill of 2022, the incitement to violence or hatred and hate offences, is currently at the 3rd stage in the Seanad. The purported aim of this legislation is supposed to be to tackle hateful speech, because you know the Irish, you're such a racist, hateful, phobic bunch of people, right? The world doesn't like the Irish, right? I'm being facetious. Irish people are the most kind, welcoming people. You're known all over the world. I moved here 21 years ago and never left. Why do you think St. Patrick's Day is celebrated more than any other holiday in the world? Because people love the Irish. So unlike the government trying to gaslight you and make you think you're hateful, this is basically, it's extreme in measure, it's poorly defined, and it will potentially be used to prosecute minority opinion, like mine, like Jerry's, and like some of you. Prosecute us. You could have a meme on your phone, and the guards could come to your house and say, we believe something is hateful on your phone. I need all your tablets, your phones, and everything, and your passwords. And if you don't hand it over, you can be arrested. Guilty until proven innocent. So the third thing is, only candidates who support freedom of speech should get your vote. Immigration, gender ideology, and freedom of speech. And then the last thing is probably the most terrifying. The last thing that I'm going to talk about, you may not have even heard about. So for all the chaos, you always have to think, what do they want us to see? The establishment makes things happen for us to see. Think of it as like a theater. For all the chaos and attacks happening in front of your eyes, like teaching kids at age 9 about their sexual experience, like the thousands of tents around Dublin in these encampment villages, all this stuff happening in front of our eyes in the foreground, you have to say, what's happening in the background? They want us to look left, go and look right, okay? So what's happening in the background is the most significant piece of legislation that this country has seen in decades. It's called the WHO Treaty. I did a Twitter space call. You can find it on my Twitter, Natural Women's IE, or Making Sense has it on their Twitter. We invited some experts around the world who have been fighting against this WHO treaty for the last year. We flew a few of them over to Dublin. We flew Christine Anderson, Andrew Bridgen, Tess Lowry, Kat Linley, Philip Kruse, and we had Patrick E. Walsh from Ireland, and a few up there, and Eddie Hobbs was there speaking as well. We actually went into the Dáil. I'm usually screaming on the outside of the Dáil, but I actually snuck in and went into the Dáil to present to all the parliamentarians about this issue. Guess how many showed up when every single TD minister and senator was invited? Two. They didn't care. Maddie McGrath and Fitzmaurice. Yeah, just 2 showed up, and we put so much time, money, private fundraising to make this happen. But we have videos on that, so I'll share with you where those are. So basically people think about the United Nations, they think, oh, United Nations is wonderful, it's about getting, you know, clean water and everything for underprivileged countries, etc. But what happened is the World Economic Forum, the WEF, merged with the UN in the summer of 2019. So WEF and UN became one big team 6 months before COVID. The WHO is a subsidiary of the UN. So basically UN and WEF are together, WHO is right there in it. It's different wheels on the same car. People think that the WHO is publicly funded by all the countries. Wrong. It's funded by over 80% is private funding. Who funds the WHO? It's from private donors. Who's the biggest donor?
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates, bingo. Yeah, he gave over 300 million or something crazy. So the WEF is made up of the world's top 1,000 corporations in the world. And they are funded by people who get financial gains based on what they tell us to do. So regardless of your view on COVID, regardless of your view on the vaccines, masks, lockdowns, or whatever, we should have the health choice to make our choices for our own bodies and our own children. So politicians have been talking about a COVID review for 2 years, Donnelly. For 2 years, we're going to do a COVID review, an inquiry, a look back, so we can learn lessons. But they said it's going to be a no blame review. No blame, why is that? So first of all, for 2 years they've been talking about it and it hasn't happened. It has not happened. They say it's an opportunity to learn lessons, but if you look at what lessons the Irish people had to learn, we learned after the last crisis, the banking collapse, Ireland paid off. We absorbed 42% of all the debt in the EU. Our little island here, 42%, almost half the debt of the EU. So don't you think Ireland learned their lesson? We don't need those lessons. Thank you very much, Donnelly. So what we need is accountability, but they want to have a no blame review, and what they're doing is they're kicking the can down the road with the COVID review. And does anyone know what's happening the week of May 27th?
They're ratifying.
They're ratifying the WHO treaty. So what they're doing is COVID review, get all that, just sweep it under the carpet, and then we sign this over to Tedros, we sign it over to the WHO, and then if we realize things went really wrong, there's even less accountability. It's, oh, Uncle Tedros is handling it now. They want to hand over our sovereignty, our public health service, and your choices over to an unelected body called the WHO. So that's what's happening in the background. Not one paper's covered it. They don't want to know about it, and if you mention it, they'll probably call us all sorts of names. I think extremist is the new term, but you know, we need to tell anyone knocking on the door, it's immigration, it's sexualization of kids, it's hate speech, and WHO treaty. If you remember 4 things at all, those 4 things should be talked about with anyone trying to beg for your votes. Without accountability, we don't have democracy. So they spent in Ireland, the Irish government spent 40 billion euros on COVID measures when Sweden didn't even have a lockdown. There's business owners who have shut their doors. They don't have their businesses. There's people who have lost their lives prematurely. Anyone who follows, there's a lovely man, Patrick E. Walsh, I've met him, he's an accountant. He actually came into the Dáil with us. He spoke at the town hall and shared his data. He scrapes the RIP.ie data to see how many deaths based on the past should happen every month. Okay, how many actually have happened since 2021? And it's 18,000 excess or premature since 2021, well after the pandemic ended. That's data, so use the data how you want to use the data, but I'm just talking about the raw numbers, so that's out there. So I would say, how dare we let the Irish government sign our health service away and our sovereignty over to the WHO when they haven't even done a look back for the last so-called pandemic. If you want to know more about that, you can see some clips from our event, including the meeting in the Dáil. You can go to uniteagainstwho.org. We built that website a week or 2 ago. Uniteagainstwho.org, and it has videos and a call to action on that. So what I will end on, I am nearly done talking. Am I on a timer still? So right now in Ireland we are in the, I'm going to end to say, we are absolutely in the fight of our lives right now. It requires all hands on deck. There's lots of different parties, lots of different independents, lots of different personalities, and generally people rising up to stand up have very strong personalities, but we have to have an all hands on deck approach. Squabbling or infighting will likely scupper any progress made. Now more than ever, we must have to put any of our differences aside, even if it's differences on COVID, even if it's differences on immigration. Park the differences, unite where we can, and say, the first thing I said when I started speaking is look around. There's got to be one thing right now in Ireland you're not happy with, so let's vote them out. Vote those parties out. We're all unhappy with something. We don't all have to agree with Jerry on everything, or John Waters on everything, or Una McGurk, another friend of mine, she's running. We don't have to agree with everyone on everything, but we have to put our shoulders to the wheel to get those people out of the Dáil who are destroying the country. Yeah.
There's one thing you have to mention.
I only could talk for 4, but tell me.
Irish taxpayers' money is being used to fund the election of African agitators to the tune of €230,000, right? Fine Gael, 39,000, Fianna Fáil 39,000, Green Party 36,000, Labour Party 31,600, Social Democrats 32, Sinn Féin 20,000, Solidarity People Before Profit 8,300, Independents, whoever they are, 7,000, N2 11,500, and Reform Alliance 5,400. So that they're actually using our own taxpayer, our own money to fund these people to get elected.
It's under the DEI, Diversity, Equity and Inclusion. Is that right? DEI, you know what I say that stands for? Didn't earn it. Ooh. Didn't earn it.
I like it.
Everybody has a fair chance in life. When you come out of your mama's womb and you're born into this world, I was born in a very working class family in a very rural area. You work with what you have. You shouldn't be given anything as a freebie. I don't care if you're black, white, gay, straight, American, Irish. You come out and do the best you can. You shouldn't be given favors because of whatever reason, but that's my DEI rant. Go ahead.
Yeah, the Irish, the only one standing here as an independent, they're not being funded. They have to raise their own funds. And why isn't it an equal opportunity for everybody? And as I always say, the first step in liquidating people is destroy his books, destroy their culture, its history, then have somebody write new books, manufacture a new culture, invent a new history, and before long that nation will begin to forget what it is and what it was.
Very good. Very good. That's exactly what's happening. Exactly what's happening. So, they're trying to destroy the Christian faith. They're trying to destroy childhood innocence. They're trying to destroy the Irish culture, flooding us in. We will very soon be, Irish will be a minority in our own, like I'm Irish, in your own country. I've been here 20 years, nearly half my life. But they're trying to break down the Irish race, the culture, the music, and even Irish language. There's less hours in class now for that. Watch that all of a sudden just be phased out. And then all of a sudden,
language is next.
What's that?
They're bringing in Ukrainian language. They're bringing to the schools.
Yeah. And is anyone here a secondary school parent? Secondary school, yeah. So what they're doing for secondary school, my friend is in Waterford, and she caught this, that some of the core subjects are moving to optional. And in her particular school, the core subjects, and I've seen this from our group of teachers, they sent us the actual sheet on it. I think it's on my Twitter, I'll repost it. They're moving some of the core subjects over to optional. And some of those core subjects are, in some schools, science is optional. My friend in Waterford, her daughter had to fight to take science. So science is optional. Geography, don't know where you're coming from. Arts, business study, home economic, and a couple of languages. What are they replacing it with?
Social studies of some kind.
What did I talk about, Reese, just a minute ago? Diversity, inclusion, gender ideology, Black Lives Matter, LGBTQI, climate alarmism, and teaching your children they should feel oppressed, victims, social justice warriors. They're going to turn them in. You saw what happened at Trinity. They're grooming our children to just become social justice warriors. They won't be taking any studies like things for their brain, their reading, the writing, the math. It's going to be social justice, and that is Marxism. That is Marxism.
So people should really start taking their kids out of that.
I buy a lottery ticket every single week, and if I win, I'm going to build a school for the kids and spread it around Ireland. I'm going to try to get some investors to help me do that. My kids are in school, and every time I see the school books of what's coming, and I have an insight to it even before it goes public, because we had a teacher on the recent DCU course who was undercover. She actually was going to leave at some points. It was so disturbing. When I say disturbing, like she was traumatized. She stepped down from being an SPHE teacher because of what she learned on this recent DCU course. It is horrendous. It's awful. Yeah. So we're going to get that submission out. But what we have to do now is we're going to go into the TDs with a booklet, an actual 100-page booklet, to say, here's what we're concerned with. Here's all the pages. Here's what we've done. We've been gaslit. Children's Ombudsman gaslit us. Tusla gaslit us. We went into 5 Garda stations about the books. Just nope. They get the memo from O'Gorman or whatever, or Foley. But we're going to go into the TDs and call a meeting with some independents and go, this has to stop. Britain just announced today that they're redoing their sex ed, where they're not going to teach gender ideology. Sex is not going to be taught but below age 10. They're looking at that and all this other stuff. So we're like, okay, Foley, look at what Britain's doing. You know, you have to stop it here in Ireland. So it's a ongoing battle, but I won't talk much further because Vincent's going to come up and I've rambled on enough. But I think in summary, if you vote for any person in a party, it doesn't even matter if it's your lovely neighbor who's your child's GAA coach or your lovely bus driver who's running or whoever. If you vote for a person in that party, you are not voting for that person, that nice neighbor. You're voting for the party, and they will be forced to toe the party line. And the parties that we have to get out are the Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, Sinn Féin, Greens, Social Democrats, People Before Puberty, I mean Profit. Who else? Who am I missing? Labour.
They all have to go.
All of them. They all push for that. They all push for the racing woman, mother, and home. They all are pushing the same
Minda
agenda.
Silent, we'll have to remove him as well.
Who?
Minda Silent. Minda Silent.
Oh,
He hasn't opened out the last 5 years, like, he's trying to retire and let him smoke away wherever he's smoking. Like, you know.
Yeah, so we have to get rid of anyone who's linked to a party because they're just going to push this global agenda with those 4 things I talked about. I could have talked about 10 more policies like euthanasia and all the other ones they're pushing to kill us off, but I only had time for 4 and I ran over. But I'll end on a quote from George Orwell, 1984. The war waged by the ruling group against its own subjects and its object is not the victory over either Eurasia or Eastasia, but to keep the structure of society intact. So they're moving us towards that digital ID, WHO's, your public health choices. There's 15-minute cities being built in Dublin. If anybody's walked or dared to walk in Dublin lately, it says your 15-minute city starts here. That's an open-air prison.
And the keys.
Yeah, on the keys.
Yeah.
Someone sent a photo and I said you're one. So you're a 15-minute city. So just think about
I wore this
lockdown.
tonight, Jana, especially.
We'll get over Vince because I rambled on and on, but that's how the world's falling apart. But people like Terry are going to say.
I say I don't write scripts. I've just found my script writer.
Very good.
The world's falling apart.